For 25 years, Judge Eleanor Whitmore ruled her courtroom with an iron fist. She silenced attorneys, twisted the law to suit her will, and sent innocent men to prison without hesitation. To many, she was not just a judge, she was the system itself, an untouchable force of oppression. But today, one man was about to shatter her reign. Malcolm Reid had spent years preparing for this moment. A defense attorney known for taking on impossible cases, he had seen the damage Whitmore inflicted firsthand. Today's case wasn't just about his client, it was personal. He had evidence, a plan, and the resolve to expose her corruption once and for all. But taking down a judge this powerful came with a cost. If he failed, it could mean the end of his career, or worse. The Montgomery courthouse simmered under the relentless summer sun, its oppressive heat mirrored by the heavy atmosphere inside. In courtroom 4, conversations fell silent, the shuffle of papers ceased, and an unspoken tension settled over the room. Everyone knew how this trial would end before it even began. It was the same every time. The defendant was black, and that meant he had already lost. Judge Whitmore sat perched high on the bench, silver hair twisted into a strict bun, not a strand out of place. Her mere presence dictated order, her size and raised eyebrows speaking volumes without her needing to utter a word. She had spent decades bending the scales of justice to her will. But today, those scales were about to tip. Malcolm walked into the courtroom, his polished shoes tapping deliberately against the marble floor. He didn't avoid Whitmore's gaze or fidget nervously like so many before him. He met her eyes head-on. Today, he wasn't just here to defend his client. He was here to put an end to a legacy of corruption. At the defense table, Jamal Harris sat hunched, hands clasped. His borrowed suit hung loose on his frame, its frayed cuffs betraying years of wear. He looked like a man already condemned, not because of guilt, but because the system had never been designed to see him as anything else. The evidence against him was flimsy at best. A grainy surveillance video showed a man in a hoodie, no clear face, no identifying features. The only witness, an older white store clerk, had hesitated when making his statement, as if searching for the right words. The alleged weapon had been found miles away, devoid of fingerprints or any direct tie to Jamal. Yet here he was, standing trial in a courtroom where facts had never mattered as much as perception. Whitmore's gaze flickered toward Malcolm, assessing. She had heard of him, a troublemaker and nuisance, the kind of lawyer who didn't just fight cases, but fought the system itself. Her expression remained impassive, but something shifted in the air. A silent battle line was drawn before a single word was spoken. For 25 years, she had ruled unchallenged. Today, that changed. Malcolm rose from his seat, buttoning his suit jacket as he stepped toward the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, today's case is about more than just a robbery. It's about justice. It's about truth. His voice was calm, steady. He wouldn't let Whitmore intimidate him. My client, Jamal Harris, is accused of a crime based on speculation, not evidence. The prosecution's entire case rests on assumptions, on biases, on a broken system that has failed too many times before. The prosecutor, a man named Daniel Preston, smirked. He had played in Whitmore's court for years, winning case after case, watching men like Jamal be convicted before a single piece of evidence was considered. Whitmore tapped her gavel. Mr. Reid, let's keep the theatrics to a minimum. Malcolm turned to her, unwavering. With all due respect, Your Honor, truth isn't theatrics. It's what this courtroom is supposed to uphold. A murmur rippled through the gallery. No one spoke to Judge Whitmore that way. Her eyes narrowed. Proceed. Malcolm gestured to the surveillance footage playing on the screen. This video is grainy, unclear. The prosecution claims it shows my client, but no defining facial features can be made out. How do we convict a man when we don't even know for certain that he was there? Calloway stood. We have an eyewitness. An eyewitness who hesitated when identifying my client. Malcolm countered. Mr. Reynolds, the store clerk, took several seconds before pointing to Jamal in a lineup. Why? Because he wasn't sure. Because he was pressured. Whitmore sighed. Are you implying misconduct, Mr. Reid? I'm implying that justice requires certainty, and there's none here. Malcolm shot back. Jamal watched, his hope flickering like a candle in the wind. No one had ever fought for him like this before. But Malcolm wasn't finished yet. Malcolm took a slow breath. This was the moment he had been waiting for. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit additional evidence into the record." Whitmore raised a brow. "You were required to disclose all evidence during discovery." "I was," Malcolm acknowledged. "But this evidence doesn't come from my side. It comes from yours." Gasps echoed through the room as Malcolm handed a folder to the bailiff. Whitmore took it, flipping it open. Her face remained still, but the tight grip on the pages betrayed her. Inside were records, sealed case files, witness tampering reports, and suppressed evidence, all tying back to Whitmore herself. "I have here documented proof that Judge Whitmore has knowingly altered case outcomes, disregarded exonerating evidence, and influenced witnesses to secure convictions," Malcolm announced. "This isn't just about Jamal Harris. It's about every man who has ever stood trial in this courtroom and never had a chance." Whitmore slammed her gavel. "Enough." Malcolm held firm. "No, Your Honor. It's not enough. Not anymore." The room was silent, the weight of decades of corruption pressing down like a storm about to break. Before Whitmore could issue a rebuttal, the courtroom doors burst open. 2 uniformed officers entered, flanked by a woman in a crisp suit, Assistant Attorney General Angela Thornton. "Judge Whitmore." Thornton's voice rang clear. "By order of the Department of Justice, you are under arrest for corruption, obstruction of justice, and multiple counts of judicial misconduct." The courtroom gasped. Whitmore's face went pale, her grip tightening on her gavel, as if she could still control the chaos unraveling around her. Malcolm exhaled, his hands steady, his work finally complete. Justice had arrived. Eleanor Whitmore,